Chapter 3 Respect on the Road. The highway stretched out like a black ribbon through the Tennessee night, slick from an earlier rain. The Cadillac's headlights cut through the mist, the hum of the big engine steady and smooth beneath Bally Buster's hand on the wheel. He drove alone this time. Marco had taken a separate car, trailing a few miles back with two soldiers riding shotgun and a trunk full of insurance. Chicago wasn't Memphis. In Chicago, you didn't walk in soft. Bally took a slow drag on his cigar, the smoke curling around him like a ghost. His mind was already in the Windy City, deals to be cut, messages to be delivered, blood to be spilled if need be. Then the blue lights flashed in his rearview mirror. "Son of a bitch," Bally muttered, easing the Cadillac onto the shoulder. The cruiser pulled up behind him, siren cutting out with a dying wail. Gravel crunched as boots hit the ground. Bally didn't move. Didn't even take his hand off the wheel. A young cop appeared at the window, flashlight beam slicing through the dark. Early 20s, fresh-faced, green, the kind of guy who thought the badge made him 10 feet tall. "License and registration," the cop said flatly, not even looking up. "You were doing 80 and a 60. Bally took his time, real slow, leaning over to pull the wallet from his jacket. He handed the license over without a word, smoke from his cigar drifting lazily out the open window. The cop glanced at the card. Then froze. His eyes widened like a man staring down the barrel of a loaded gun. He blinked once, twice. His flashlight trembled slightly in his hand. His voice cracked. Mr. Buster." Bally raised an eyebrow, a lazy smirk curling on his lips. "Something wrong, officer." The kid swallowed hard, Adam's apple bobbing like it was about to jump out of his throat. I didn't know it was you. Sir, I swear to God, I didn't know." Bally blew a lazy stream of smoke out the window, then tilted his head. "Tell me, officer, you know anyone else drives a Cadillac worth more than both your nuts at a sperm bank?" The kid's face went red. "No, sir, no, Mr. Buster. I apologize. Completely. Shouldn't have stopped you. Just doing my job, you know." Bally flicked the ash from his cigar, eyes hard and sharp in the glow of the dashboard. "Your job, huh? Let me explain something, kid. Men like me, we don't get pulled over. Not unless it's an escort to the state line. Understand?" "Yes, sir, absolutely, sir," the cop stammered, practically shoving the license back into Bally's hand. Bally studied him for a moment, letting the silence stretch, the weight of it pressing down like a boot on the kid's neck. Finally, he leaned closer, voice low and dangerous. "Next time you see these headlights in your mirror, you pull to the side of the road, you tip your hat, and you pray I don't stop to talk. Got it?" "Yes, sir," the cop whispered. Bally extended his palm lazily, as if offering a choice. The young officer hesitated only a second before lowering his head and pressing his lips against Bally's open hand, a gesture of terrified respect. Bally smirked, pulled his hand back, and wiped it on his jacket like he was brushing off dust. "Good boy," he said coldly, dropping the Cadillac into gear. "Now go catch a real criminal." The engine roared as Bally pulled back onto the highway, leaving the cop standing frozen in the flashing blue light, sweat dripping down his forehead as the tail lights disappeared into the distance. By dawn, the Cadillac rolled north through Illinois, the skyline of Chicago breaking the horizon in the early light. The city woke slowly, a beast stretching its limbs, ready to feed. Marco was already waiting at the edge of Little Italy, leaning against his Buick, cigarette glowing like a firefly in the morning haze. "You're late," Marco said as Bally stepped out of the car, adjusting his tie. "Had to teach a lesson on the highway," Bally muttered, flicking his spent cigar into the gutter. Kid cop thought he had balls. "I corrected him." Marco chuckled, shaking his head. "Even the cops kiss the ring, huh?" Bally smirked, sliding on his gloves. Makes it personal. Puts 'em in their place." Marco nodded toward a brick building up the block. "Salvatore's boys are inside. Big meeting. They think we're here to talk percentages." "And what are we here to talk?" Bally asked, eyes narrowing. "Respect," Marco said simply. Inside, the room smelled of espresso and sweat. Salvatore's crew sat around a long table, gold chains glinting, cigars clamped between crooked teeth. At the head of the table sat Salvatore Saldaluca himself, Slick black hair, shark's smile, eyes like polished obsidian. "Bally Buster," Saul said smoothly, rising as Bally entered. "Memphis Golden Boy. Finally decided to grace Chicago with your presence." Bally didn't shake the offered hand. He just slid into a chair at the far end of the table, crossing one leg over the other. Marco stayed standing, arms folded, eyes scanning the room like a hawk. "You got something you wanna say, Saul," Bally said, voice flat. "Say it." Sal smiled thinly, lowering himself back into his chair. "We're just saying expansion costs money and territory. You want in on Chicago, you play by Chicago rules." Bally leaned forward, elbows on the table, cigar between his fingers. His voice was quiet, but the room went still anyway. "Chicago rules," Bally repeated, as if tasting the words. "Funny thing about rules, Saul. They only matter if you're willing to enforce them." A tense silence stretched across the room. Sal smirked again, but it didn't reach his eyes. "You threatening me, Bally?" Bally flicked the ash from his cigar onto the polished wood table. "No, Saul. I don't make threats. I make promises." The air shifted. Every man in the room felt it, that sudden, suffocating weight that came when Bally Buster decided how things were going to go. And just like that, the message was clear: Chicago didn't own Bally Buster. Bally Buster owned Chicago. By the time the meeting ended, the deal was signed, the percentages agreed upon, Bally's percentages, not Sal's. And as he stepped out into the sharp morning air, Bally knew it was only the beginning. Memphis to Chicago, south to north, one city at a time. And God help the next man who forgot who ruled the road. End of Chapter 3. Chapter 4. Respect.